Be obsessed or be forgotten. There is no mid-leaf brutal truth. Average is, they say, let's kill the lie first. There is no balance. There is no healthy middle. There is no do a little, rest a little, win a little. That story is sold to keep you normal. You're either obsessed or you are forgotten, in no exceptions. The world does not reward interest, IT reward obsession. The world does not remember effort, IT remembers dominance. And dominance never comes from moderation. Right now, you're losing time. Not because you're lazy, but because you're deluded. Your energy is split. Your focus is divided. Your standards are negotiable. You work, but not with hunger. You dream, but not with urgency. You want more, but not enough. To scare yourself that's why nothing is breaking open, that you're playing safety in a world that only respects extremes. Listen carefully. Average effort gets average results. Average discipline gets average life. Average mindset gets average outcomes. And average is invisible. Nobody remembers invisible. Nobody respects invisible. Nobody fears invisible. That's the reality. You don't lose because you're incapable. You lose because you're undecided. Undecided people hesitate. Hesitation kills momentum. Momentum is everything. Obsession is not motivation. Obsession is when quitting doesn't feel like an option, when rest feels uncomfortable, when comfort feels like danger. Obsession is when your goal lives in your head even when you're tired, even when you're bored, even when nobody is watching. Most people want success but still want weekends, still want approval, still want comfort, still want to feel normal. You can't have both. Normal is crowded. Normal is loud. Normal is full of people who want it more but refuse to. Give more. Look around. How many people talk big but move small? How many people say they're trying but disappear when it's inconvenient? How many people start strong and fade quietly? That's not bad luck. That's lack of obsession. Here's the part most people don't want to hear. Talent doesn't separate people. Work ethic doesn't separate people. Obsession does. Obsession is what keeps you moving when excitement is gone. Obsession is what keeps you locked in when nobody is clapping. Obsession is what makes you dangerous in a world addicted to comfort. If you're not obsessed, you're replaceable. If you're replaceable, you're forgettable. And the world forgets fast. Every day you delay intensity, someone else is taking your place. Every day you choose comfort, someone else is sharpening their edge. Every day you tell yourself, I'll do it tomorrow, someone else is building momentum you'll never catch. This isn't pressure. This is truth. You don't get remembered for almost trying. You don't get respected for being balanced. You don't get results for being interested. You get results for being obsessed. Now here's the problem, but you've been taught to fear obsession. They told you, don't burn out. Don't do too much. Life is about balance. Those rules are made by people who never built anything extreme. Balance is for maintenance. Obsession is for creation. You don't balance your way out of mediocrity. You attack your way out. Obsession is uncomfortable because it isolates you. People stop relating to you. They stop inviting you. They stop understanding you. That's not a sign you're wrong. That's the cost of separation. Obsession makes people nervous because it exposes their excuses. They'll say you're doing too much. They'll say you're obsessed. That they'll say you need to relax. What they really mean is, you're reminding me of what I'm not willing to do. So they try to slow you down. They won't say quit. They'll say be realistic. That's poison. Realistic is another word for limited. The moment you accept realistic goals, you accept a realistic life. And realistic lives are forgettable. Be honest. Deep down, you don't want normal. You don't want average money. You don't want average freedom. You don't want average respect. But you've been moving like someone who does. You wake up without urgency. You negotiate with discipline. You wait for motivation. Obsession doesn't wait. Obsession doesn't negotiate. Obsession doesn't ask. Permission. Obsession moves first and explains never. That's the difference. Here's a reality slap. If you disappeared today, how long would it take for the world to notice? If the answer is not long, you're not obsessed enough. Obsession creates impact. Impact creates absence. Absence creates attention. But you can't skip obsession and expect significance. This is not about working 24/7. This is about mental ownership. Your goal must own you. T must follow you in a quiet moments. IT must interrupt comfort. IT must make you uncomfortable staying the same. If you can forget your goal for hours, it's not big enough. If distractions pull you away easily, you're not obsessed. If you still need motivation videos to get started, you're not locked in yet. Obsession removes choice. You don't decide to work. You just do. You don't decide to stay disciplined. That's your default. You don't decide to focus. Distraction feels wrong. That's obsession. And obsession is the price of being remembered. Here's what nobody tells you. Most people fail quietly. They don't crash. They don't collapse. They slowly reduce intensity until nothing is left. They become casual, then comfortable, then invisible. You don't fall off a cliff. You fade. And faded people tell themselves they're still in the game. They're not. They're spectators. If you want to win, you must choose obsession early, before results, before validation, before proof. Because obsession comes first, results come later. This is where weak mindsets break. They say, I'll be obsessed when I see progress. No, you see progress because you're obsessed. You don't earn obsession. You decide it. Right now. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Now. You decide, I will not be forgettable. And that decision changes behavior. You stop half working. You stop half believing. You stop half committing. There is no half in obsession. Half is for hobbies. This is identity. You either become someone who lives this or someone who watches others live it. That's the fork. And the fork doesn't stay open forever. Time closes it. If you don't choose obsession, life chooses average for you. And average is permanent if you don't fight. Hear this clearly. You don't need more information. You don't need more motivation. You don't need more time. You need intensity, directed, sustained, unapologetic. You need to care so much that distraction becomes offensive. You need to want it so badly that comfort feels like betrayal. You need to become obsessed enough that forgetting your goal feels impossible. Because the world doesn't owe you remembrance. You earn obsession. And if you're not willing to go that far, that's fine. Just don't complain when nobody remembers your name. Re hook. End of part 1. If you're not obsessed, you're already fading. In line. Repeatable. Be obsessed. Or be forgotten. Part 2. Comfort is the enemy you keep thinking. Let's be clear about the real problem. That it's not lack of opportunity. That it's not lack of resources. That it's not lack of talent. That it's comfort. Comfort is the most dangerous drug on earth because it doesn't feel like poison. IT feels earned. IT feels reasonable. IT feels deserved. And that's why it ruins people slowly. Comfort doesn't attack you. IT sedates you. You don't notice when it takes over. You justify it. You normalize it. You defend it. You say things like, I work hard. I deserve rest. I'll push harder tomorrow. I don't want to burn out. I need balance. Those are comfort sentences. They sound responsible. They sound mature. They're excuses in a suit. Comfort convinces you that average effort is enough because you're trying. But the world doesn't reward trying. IT rewards output. And comfort destroys output. Here's how comfort works. IT whispers instead of shouting. IT tells you. You can skip today. You've already done enough. One more episode won't hurt. You'll start fresh next week. And every time you listen, your standards drop. Not all at once. Slowly, that's the trap. Nobody wakes up and decides to be mediocre. They slide into it. They relax once, then again. Then it becomes a habit. And habits build identities. Before you know it, you're no longer someone who pushes, you're someone who explains why pushing isn't necessary. Comfort turns discipline into negotiation. Instead of, this must be done, it becomes, do I feel like it? That question is lethal. The moment feelings get a vote, obsession dies. Because obsession doesn't ask how you feel. Obsession asks one question only: what needs to be done? Comfort wants you soft mornings, soft standards, soft goals, but soft never wins. Soft gets replaced. Soft gets overlooked. Soft gets forgotten. Look around. The world is full of comfortable people with big opinions and small results. They talk a lot. They post a lot. They explain a lot, but they don't produce. Comfort loves activity without intensity, busy without pressure, movement without direction. That's why you can be exhausted and still be losing, because you're tired from comfort tasks, not obsessed. Obsessed work is focused, uncomfortable, mentally demanding. Comfort work feels productive but doesn't move the needle. That's why you stay stuck. Let me say this clean, that if your daily routine feels safe, you're not obsessed. If your schedule leaves room for constant entertainment, you're not obsessed. If missing a day doesn't bother you, you are not obsessed. Obsession doesn't fit nicely in a life. It disrupts life. It invades routines. It rearranges priorities. It forces sacrifice. That's why people avoid it. They don't hate work. They hate discomfort. They want results without tension. That doesn't exist. Pressure is the price, and pressure is uncomfortable. Comfort makes you emotionally fragile. Small problems feel big. Small criticism feels personal. Small setbacks feel like signs to quit. Why? Because comfort removes tolerance for pain. When you live comfortably, any discomfort feels unbearable. That's why most people quit early. Not because the goal is too hard, but because they trained themselves to avoid discomfort. Obsession reverses that. Obsession raises your pain threshold. Long hours stop feeling long. Repetition stops feeling boring. Silence stops feeling lonely. Why? Because your identity changes. You stop seeing discomfort as a threat and start seeing it as proof that you're in the right place. Comfort hates proof. Comfort wants reassurance, not results. It wants you to feel good now instead of becoming great later. That trade is invisible at first, but it compounds. Every comfortable decision steals from your future. Every time you choose ease, you weaken urgency, and urgency is fuel. Without urgency, obsession fades. Here's a hard truth. Most people don't fail. They settle. They lower the bar until it's easy to step over. Then they call it maturity. They say things like, I'm being realistic now. I'm not as hungry as before. I've changed. No, they got comfortable. Comfort makes you allergic to obsession. It labels obsession as unhealthy, extreme, unnecessary. That's how it protects itself. Because obsession threatens comfort's control, and if you become obsessed, comfort loses power. You stop listening. You stop negotiating. You stop excusing comfort fights back with logic. Dangerous logic. Logic that sounds like wisdom but produces weakness. You need to understand this. Comfort does not want you to fail loudly. It wants you to fail quietly. It wants you calm, unbothered, satisfied with good enough. That way, you never revolt. You never snap. You never go all in. You just exist. That's the most dangerous state, because nothing pushes you out of it. Obsession is violent in comparison. It disrupts sleep. It disrupts relationships. It disrupts routines. Not forever, but long enough to build something real. Comfort says, why rush? Obsession says, time is running. Comfort says, you have plenty of time. Obsession says, you're already behind. And obsession is right, because every year you delay intensity, you compound mediocrity. The gap doesn't stay small. It widens. You can't casually catch up with someone who is obsessed early. That's a myth. Momentum doesn't reset. You don't wake up one day and suddenly match years of obsession. That's why later is dangerous. Later is comfort's favorite word. Later keeps you calm. Later keeps you passive. Later keeps you average. Obsessed people don't say later. They say now not. Emotionally, structurally, they build their lives around execution. Their days are designed, not improvised. Comfort improvises that IT reacts. Obsession plans. Comfort waits for motivation. Obsession moves without it. Here's the identity attack. That if your life is comfortable, it's because you made it that way. And if it's comfortable, it's not built for growth. Growth requires friction, pressure, deadlines. Standards that don't care how you feel. You don't drift into obsession. You decide it. You decide that comfort is no longer acceptable. That boredom is no longer an excuse. That distraction is no longer tolerated. That ease is suspicious. This is where most people hesitate because obsession costs something up front. That IT costs convenience. That IT costs approval. That IT costs leisure. Comfort says, is it really worth it? That question reveals everything. People who ask that are not ready. Because obsession doesn't ask if it's worth IT. That IT assumes it is and builds proof later. If you need guarantees before commitment, you will never be obsessed. Obsession commits first and figures it out after. That's why obsessed people look reckless to comfortable people. But recklessness is just commitment from the outside. You don't become obsessive by accident. You become obsessed when you're tired of staying the same. When comfort starts feeling dangerous. When average starts feeling suffocating. That moment is critical. Most people numb it. They distract themselves. They relax it away. They talk themselves down. Obsessed people lean in. They use dissatisfaction as fuel. They don't escape discomfort. They weaponize it. That's the shift you must make. Stop asking how to be more comfortable. Start asking how to be more effective. Stop designing your libido feel good. Start designing it produce results. Comfort asks, how do I feel today? Obsession asks, what did I build today? Those questions lead to very different lives. Point 1 is forgettable. Point 1 leaves a mark. And here's the final truth of this part. Comfort is not the reward. Comfort is the enemy pretending to be the prize. The reward comes after obsession, after pressure, after sacrifice. Not before. If you choose comfort now, you choose regret later. If you choose obsession now, you choose options later. There is no middle. There is no safe balance. There is obsession or slow erasure. Arihook. End of part 2. If your life feels easy, you're in danger. End line. Repeatable. Comfort kills obsession. Obsession builds legacy. Part 3. Most people don't quit. Here's the truth nobody wants to admit. Most people don't quit. They decay. They don't wake up one day and say, I'm done chasing more. They slowly lower the standard until quitting feels unnecessary. That's the most dangerous form of failure because it feels reasonable. Decay doesn't look dramatic. IT looks responsible. IT looks calm. IT looks mature. People stop pushing hard and call it being realistic. They stop sacrificing and call it self-care. They stop obsessing and call it balance. But underneath all of it is fear. Fear of discomfort. Fear of isolation. Fear of being judged for still try it. They don't quit publicly. They quit privately. They still talk about goals. They still say they want more. They still identify as ambitious. But the actions are gone. That's decay. Decay is dangerous because it's quiet and alarms and breakdowns and clear moment to point at. Just slow erosion. You miss one session, then another. Then it becomes normal. You skip one hard decision. Then you rationalize it. Then it becomes policy. You stop demanding more from yourself and start explaining why less is acceptable. That's how identity erodes. You don't become weak suddenly. You practice weakness one compromise at a time, and every compromise feels small. That's the trap. Nobody destroys their future with one bad decision. They destroy it with 1,000 comfortable ones. Decay starts when obsession fades, not all at once. First, urgency disappears. You stop feeling pressure. You stop feeling behind. You stop feeling hungry. You tell yourself, I'm doing okay. That sentence has ended more dreams than failure ever has, because okay kills momentum. Then discipline becomes optional. You still work, just not when it's inconvenient. You still try, just not when it's uncomfortable. You start listening to feelings instead of standards. That's decay. Feelings were never meant to lead. They were meant to be ignored. Obsessed people don't ask how they feel. They ask what's required. Decay reverses that. Now feelings vote. Now mood matters. Now comfort has a voice and wants. Comfort speaks, obsession gets quiet. Then comes identity drift. You stop seeing yourself as someone who does hard things. You start seeing yourself as someone who used to wake up early, used to grind, used to be disciplined. That language matters. Used to is a warning sign to IT means your identity is slipping into the past. And once identity moves backward, behavior follows. You don't need to quit after that, you're already done. But here's the sick part. You still show up and feel like you're in the game, that you're busy, that you're tired, that you're occupied. But you're not dangerous, that you're not intense, that you're not obsessed, that you're surviving, not building. Decay loves busy. People, busy feels productive without pressure. Busy lets you hide from truth. You can say, I'm exhausted, instead of saying, I'm undisciplined. You can say, I've got a lot going on, instead of saying, I've lost urgency. Busy is camouflage. Obsessed people are not busy. They're focused. There's a difference. Busy scatters energy. Obsession concentrates it. Decay spreads it thin. That's why progress slows without you noticing. Then something worse happens. You start defending your decay. You judge obsessed people. You call them extreme, unhealthy, unbalanced. Not because they are, but because they remind you of what you stopped being. This is where bitterness begins. Not outward bitterness. Internal bitterness, the quiet. Resentment toward people who stayed hungry while you got comfortable. You don't hate them. You envy their intensity. But instead of reigniting yours, you minimize theirs. That's decay protecting itself. And it's contagious. That's why environments matter. Decay spreads through conversation, through jokes, through be realistic advice, through people who normalize quitting without calling it quitting. That's why obsession is lonely. Because it can't survive in decaying rooms. You have to separate. Not. Emotionally, structurally, different routines, different standards, different expectations. That if you stay around decay, you absorb IT. Then no matter how strong you think you are, decay doesn't argue that IT normalizes. And once something feels normal, it feels safe. That's how ambition dies. Not from fear, from familiarity to let's get uncomfortable. Right now, there are things you use that you don't do anymore. Things you stopped without a real reason. Early mornings, hard conversations, long hours, deep focus. You didn't. Stop because they didn't work. You stopped because they were uncomfortable. And instead of admitting that, you justified it. That's decay. You traded obsession for emotional peace. An emotional peace without progress turns into quiet regret. Not today. Not tomorrow. Later, that's the dangerous part. Decay delays pain. Obsession absorbs it early. That's the trade. Obsessed people suffer up front. Decay sufferers suffer later. Most people choose later because it feels invisible. But it's not gone. It's waiting. Regret doesn't announce itself. That IT arrives slowly when it's too late to rewind. That's why this moment matters. Because decay feels harmless until it compounds. And compounding works both ways. Small daily discipline creates extreme outcomes. Small daily compromise creates permanent mediocrity. You don't drift into greatness. You drift into average. Greatness requires force, pressure, relentless standards that if you remove pressure, decay takes over automatically. That's the default state. That's why obsession must be protected, not motivated, protected from excuses, from comfort, from people who settled. You don't fight decay once. You fight it daily. To be why doing the hard thing before it's comfortable. To be why choosing repetition over excitement. To be why choosing silence over validation. To be why choosing obsession even when it feels unnecessary. Because decay always feels reasonable. Until it ruins you. Here's the identity checkpoint. Ask yourself this honestly. Are you still hungry or just busy? Are you still obsessed or just involved? Are you building or just maintaining? Maintenance is decay for people meant to dominate. And if you feel this hitting good, that discomfort means you caught decay early. Most people never do. They wake up years later and wonder where the fire went that you're catching it now. That means you still have a choice, but not forever. Decay doesn't wait. That if you don't choose obsession again, decay chooses you. There's no neutral. There is no pause. There is only obsession or erosion. Ari hook into part 3 if you're not obsessed anymore. Decay has already started. End line. Repeatable. Decay is quiet. Obsession is violent. Listen carefully. This is the moment most people turn the video off. Not because they don't understand, but because they do. And understanding hurts because now you can't pretend anymore. You know the truth that you've always known it. You don't lose because you're unlucky. You don't lose because the system is rigged. You don't lose because you lack talent. You lose because you refuse to go all in. You keep one foot in comfort and one foot in ambition. That position breaks people because comfort pulls harder every time. There is no middle. There is no safe zone where you casually become exceptional. That place does not exist. The world doesn't reward people who want IT. IT rewards people who live for it. Obsessed people don't ask if they're doing too much. They ask if they're doing enough. Obsessed people don't wait for clarity. They create it through action. Obsessed people don't wonder why others pass them. They already know. Because while others were debating, they were building. Right now, someone with less talent than you is ahead of you. Not smarter. Not luckier. Not more gifted. Just more obsessed. They stayed when it got boring. They repeated when it stopped being exciting. They worked when nobody cared. And that's why they're dangerous now. Obsession compounds. Interest fades. That's the difference. You don't drift into obsession. You decide it. You decide that average is unacceptable. You decide that comfort is suspicious. You decide that being forgotten is not an option. Because here's the part. Nobody tells you. The world is full of people who once believed they were special, once motivated, once hungry, once determined, now invisible. Not because they failed loudly, but because they stopped quietly. They slowed down. They settled. They chose peace over pressure. And the world moved on without them. That's the cost of choosing the middle. The middle feels safe. But it erases you to NO legacy is built in moderation. NO dominance is created in balance. NO greatness is born from comfort. Greatness demands obsession. And obsession demands sacrifice. You will miss things. You will lose people. You will feel misunderstood. Good, that's the toll. That if everyone understands you, you're not pushing hard enough. That if everyone supports you, you're not threatening mediocrity. That if everyone relates to you, you're still average. Obsessed people don't fit in. They don't blend. They don't live normal lives with abnormal dreams. They live abnormal lives with ruthless standards. And yes, it costs something: sleep, comfort, approval, balance. But here's what it gives you back: control, respect, options, freedom. And those rewards don't come to people who almost tried. They come to people who refuse to live quietly. You don't need permission to become obsessed. You don't need validation to go harder. You don't need applause to stay disciplined. You need a decision right now, not tomorrow, not when motivation hits, not when conditions improve. Now, you decide whether you want to be remembered or explained away, because that's the outcome. Either your life explains itself through results, or you spend years explaining why it didn't happen. Those are the two paths. People who weren't obsessed always have explanations. People who are obsessed need them. They let the outcome speak. They let the silence answer. They let the work talk. And when it does, it's loud enough to end every conversation as, oh, this is the final question. Not, do you want it? Everyone says yes to that. The real question is, are you willing to live like someone who cannot afford to be forgotten? Are you willing to be uncomfortable on purpose, to repeat when it's boring, to stay disciplined when nobody sees it, to go quiet when others are loud, to work when others relax? Because that's the price, and the price doesn't change. You either pay it daily or you pay with regret later. There is no middle payment plan. There is no discount. You don't get remembered for balance. You get remembered for obsession. And if that scares you, good. That fear is the doorway. Step through either, step aside. But don't stand in the middle. The middle is where potential goes to die. Make the decision to be obsessed or accept being forgotten. The final repeatable line. Loop ready, be obsessed or be forgotten. There is no middle.